Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? There's going to be a lot of criticism of Michael Thomas. I don't see it necessarily. I think if you look at it in context, he had an amazing start to his career, won NFL Offensive Player of the Year honors 2 seasons ago when he had that record-breaking season. Last year, unfortunately, was just injured in the first game of the season. And to his credit, he busted his behind to get back on the field on a bum ankle and ultimately had to shut it down later in the year. What happened this offseason, when the time is right, I'm certain more information will come out, but it was one of those things where I'm confident in saying that there was a disconnect between the player and the organization on how that injury should have been handled. And what it led to is what happened in June. Michael Thomas feeling like he would have been able to just rest and rehab it to be ready to roll. He wasn't. When he got there for OTAs and for minicamp, they realized it was worse, had to go get the procedure, and now he's had a setback. And that's massively unfortunate for this team. I don't think that's being a prima donna. I think it's a young guy who learned a really difficult lesson the hard way. But when you're playing for a team under a $100 million contract, you're going to be held to a higher standard. So a lot of the criticism he deserves, and I understand it. I do. The question for the Saints is, what options do you have? And one that became apparent is Odell Beckham. So let's go through a couple of things first. So ESPN's Kimberly Martin reported that there were discussions between the Saints and the Browns about a possible deal for Odell Beckham before the trade deadline passed. But the sides couldn't reach an agreement given how much Beckham is owed the rest of the year. Remember with the Mark Ingram contract, the Saints had less than $1 million available against the cap. And with the Mark Ingram deal, what they did was extended Mark Ingram so they were able to limit this year's cap number but added a year next year. So with Odell, his deal actually sets up maybe beneficial for the Browns to part ways with him now if they want to. I'll get to that in a second. But effectively, the problem for New Orleans wasn't what they were willing to give up or what Cleveland was asking. It was strictly financial, and that's part of being in the dredges of cap hell. Again, we'll get to Odell's contract here in a minute and why that sort of precluded that. If you're wondering about a potential trade, went through Michael Thomas's contract numbers, which there is an out for New Orleans after this season. But if someone wanted to take on Michael Thomas's contract as part of a trade, remember the Odell trade, which is probably the best, most comparable deal that's been done recently. Odell had just signed he was 1 year into a big contract that he'd signed in New York when they traded him to the Giants. Now, that deal also included Olivier Vernon and an offensive lineman, but essentially, New York sent Odell to Cleveland for a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and Jabril Peppers. Now, Olivier Vernon was in that deal as well, and then Cleveland got or the Giants, rather, got an offensive lineman as well. But a first, a third, and Jabril Peppers is basically what it cost Cleveland to get Odell Beckham. So is there a team willing to give up a 1, a 3, and a player, a starting caliber player for Michael Thomas? That's what the Saints would have to explore. But the Browns are in a little bit of a different spot. The trade deadline is come and gone, and they weren't able to make a deal for Beckham. And when you look at what's on Odell's contract for the next 2 years, there's no dead cap money, which means if Odell isn't with the Browns after this season, it doesn't cost Cleveland anything against their cap. Now, they would have loved to be able to trade him and recoup some type of asset. It didn't work out. But Odell's number this year is $15.75 million, which would make it nearly impossible for the Saints to find space to have him under that contract. Cleveland could, if they're basically saying, look, our quarterback's hurt, we're going nowhere in a hurry this year anyway. Odell hasn't been productive in large part because Baker Mayfield hasn't been good. And now there's these issues in the locker room. They could cut Odell. He would be a free agent, an unrestricted free agent. Then he can go wherever he wants. Maybe he does a deal with New Orleans where they backload it however they want to make it work. Or maybe they do a deal just for the end of this season. However, they might work that out if you wanted to play New Orleans. But here's the kicker. Odell, and this is why this has become interesting today. So Odell Beckham Jr. went onto his Instagram account and posted a video trashing Baker Mayfield. It's an 11-minute video that was on YouTube, and it's set to like REM Everybody Hurts, and it's basically just dumping on Baker Mayfield. And so Beckham Sr., effectively stood up for his son, crushed the quarterback, and today Odell Beckham was not at practice. He was told, do not attend practice for the Browns today after his dad posted those comments on social media trashing Baker Mayfield. Beckham is under contract for 2 more years, but again, there's no more guaranteed money left on the deal, so if they wanted to get rid of Beckham, they could, and it wouldn't hurt him against the cap at all. I will be very interested because this is the one glimmer of hope there for New Orleans. Cleveland is basically at the point where they're going to wash their hands of Odell. He's not been productive. He's battled a shoulder injury. He was injured last season. We know he had the knee injury. Now he's become a locker room issue. They could keep him on for the rest of this year, but what really good would that do? If they part ways with him after the year, why not just do it now? And if they did, they're free and clear of him, and they don't have anything on the books for the next 2 years of his deal anyway, and he can go wherever he wants. If you're in New Orleans and that happens, then you could go make a very competitive pitch for Odell to say, come to your hometown. We don't have a number one. You step in day one, and you are our number one for your hometown team. There's a lot of appeal there, but that is all contingent upon Cleveland cutting Odell Beckham. And I don't know definitively if that's going to happen. I think it's plausible. I don't know how possible it is, but it's certainly plausible when you consider the fact that Cleveland has told him don't come to practice. Now, they could just have him inactive for the remainder of the season and then try to trade him in the offseason or any number of things that they could do. But if you're another NFL team and you know Cleveland is trying to get rid of Odell Beckham, why not just wait for them to cut him and then you wouldn't know him the giant contract that he has right now? That's where New Orleans might be in that group. But they probably wouldn't be the only team amid that clump. So there is a hope, a glimmer of hope that Odell Beckham could become available if Cleveland cuts him. And if that's the case and the Saints are able to sign him, there's a lot of dominoes that have to fall here, right? There's a lot of connect the dots. But you may have Odell Beckham Sr. to thank for going on social media and trashing Baker Mayfield, which might have been the final straw for the Cleveland Browns organization. Now, we're getting far, far, far ahead of ourselves here, but that's the great thing about talk radios. We can have these speculative conversations. If the Saints did add Odell Beckham, what would that mean for Michael Thomas and his future in New Orleans? It would probably mean the Saints look for a trading partner this offseason for Michael Thomas because it would be hard to justify having both of those receivers on your roster with that salary number at the same time. Not unprecedented. Look at Cleveland. They've got both Odell and Jarvis right now. It's not served that organization very well, but it is possible, albeit unlikely. So maybe Odell could be an option, possibly, if Cleveland decides to let him loose. Then the Saints could go make a play and do some type of team-friendly deal financially. Remember the deal they did for Nick Fairley, where it was basically like a one-year deal where they put like 3 voidable years on the back end so they could just spread the number out over 3 years and so it didn't crush him against the cap. That's why Kai Harley's the best at what he does. And maybe he might have the opportunity to do it with this team and this player if Cleveland parts ways with Odell Beckham. That'd be the only way that they're able to do it. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.